Up next on Wingspan, I'll give you kids something to cry about if you don't knock it off. Remember that lovely phrase from your childhood? Oh, and don't make me turn this car around. Yeah, all too well. We're going to talk about getting in touch with your inner child, but not that one. Also, in a segment I like to call Now Enlightened, I actually have to teach the clerk at the drive-thru window how to hand someone the drink. Yep, it's one of those weeks. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Wingspan, the Imperfect Angel of a podcast. It's a little sarcasm there, which is what I'm great at, and, kind of like a theme of this podcast, but it also incorporates some, knowledge and some things you could know that I've learned, to go along with life coaching. But here's the thing, how like most life coaches are like super serious? I guess. I've dealt with a few of them, and they're just very like, okay, all right. But I wanted to be a little bit more fun, a little bit more like, more me, more my brand, I guess. So I'm kind of your unorthodox life coach. I incorporate a little fun and sarcasm into the mix while teaching people some stuff. So some of you might remember. I had a podcast back in 2013, I think. It was the Frankly Doria show. And then we stopped that, and, years later, here I am again. And if the audio sounds like it's from 2013, it's because I just pulled the damn microphone back out of the, storage, and, I'm refamiliarizing myself with that. So the idea of this podcast is to just give you guys some highlights of things I've been learning either this particular week or this past month, and really just to kind of put some life coaching tips that I've learned and tactics into like a podcast so it can kind of go out to a larger audience. Also known as a way to drive sales. I didn't say that. Anyway, so I want to keep it like 15 minutes because listen, after that, I'm probably not going to be tuning into myself. Let's just be honest. Yeah. And so don't think I didn't do my homework. I have listened to a few podcasts from life coaches and, well, they're okay. I'm not going to name any names, but, it was just kind of like I like to put sound effects in them. If you're doing podcasting, you've got to, I have more music in this library than I know what to do with. In fact, there's so much that it's a little overwhelming. But hey, it's better to have too much than too little. And so anyway, I was listening to them and really great advice, but I'm just like, okay, yeah, all right. Nothing got me excited, so I wanted to maybe do something different. And I've been learning this week, and this kind of goes along with this week's theme, that when you're kind of like an entrepreneur, which I am, you have to be able to take risks. I'm burping. That's great. Hold on. All right, I think that should have taken that out of the show. Now, where were we? Oh, hey, everybody, again. Yeah, you have to take risks. You know why? Because you get inside your head, right? And inside your head is a really bad place to be. I should know. And you start talking yourself out of every idea. Like, it starts off great, right? You're like, this is going to be epic. This is going to be great. I thought this through. And then by the time it gets somewhere to let's do it, you start having second thoughts. I find that happens a lot if I go to sleep on, like, a certain idea, and I'm like, it's going to be great. I'll wake up the next day being like, that was the stupidest thing you've ever thought of. All the time. So I'm learning how to quiet that voice. I don't know what the inside of your head sounds like. Maybe it's a little something like this. Or maybe something more along the lines of... Like, to me, it sounds like somebody who's very pensive, thinking, but, very calm. Both of those inside your head themes, very calm, very... Well, here's what goes on inside of my head. Why does it smell like jelly beans? Like, where would that smell even be coming from? It's not Easter.
And it sounds
You've
like
got to
that
be
green
freaking
jelly
kidding me. More
Which is
construction?
really weird because
This
I
is
feel
exactly
like,
what this town
unless
needs.
you bite into
Why don't
a
you just
jelly
put
bean.
one more cone out in the row? Because everybody loves
That was
it.
the funniest thing I've ever seen.
I can't turn
Oh
that way.
man, sometimes you gotta really appreciate living in this
Oh,
town.
and I really needed this to show me exactly which way to turn, as if I couldn't figure it out without the orange
Oh
cone.
crap! I forgot to pick up the cake for that birthday party.
No idea why they think
I've really got to start meditating.
this is
Like,
it's insane. I mean, I'd like to say that it's a little less dramatic than that, but there are times. There are times. But I'm one of those people. So here's the thing: when I was in life coaching school, it was actually a really cool experience. I'll get to that in a second. But we learned about different personalities, and so I'm what you call a rainbow personality. All it means is like a rainbow personality. Let me put it another way. Like, you know how there's those people, and I don't know where they are. In some cases, I'm a little envious, where they can just go to work, 9 to 5. They come home, they maybe crack a beer, I don't know, eat a little dinner, get on the couch, watch some TV, and 9 o'clock they're in bed. Like, no other obligation in life. Nothing else to think about. Nothing on the table. And then there's a rainbow personality where you kind of can't decide what you like in life, so you like everything and just try and make it all fit. But the trick there is you can't really live in balance as a rainbow personality because it's like impossible. Balance seems to suggest that there's like one side and then the other, and you figure out how to balance that out. Well, rainbow personalities have to live in harmony. So with all the things that you like to do, and I'll tell you, like this last year and a half, it's been like life coaching. I did improv theater. Work was insane. I started, obviously, this business. You know what I mean? Like, there's just so many things going on in my life, these mission trips with church, so many things going on in life that I'm like, man, you've really got to calm down. But I'm also the person where if I sit still too long, I go insane because I feel like I should be doing something. So it really is a curse, but I digress. So that's sort of like what goes on in my head. But you learn how to try and tame that. And listen, everybody has that. I'm not afraid to speak my poop. In a podcast because we're humans. That's what we have. But in life coaching, you learn some techniques. One of those was basically how to prioritize. And it sounds so dumb to me. Like, I needed to take life coaching class to figure out I had to prioritize and figure out how to manage my life. But honestly, it's the best time I've had. Here's the other thing. I was the only guy in the class, right? I thought that was a little weird. So there were 10 people in the class, and I was the only guy. And I thought it was a joke when we all first logged in because it was online, but 2 nights a week, 5:30 to 7:30, there I was. It was the Life Purpose Institute, by the way, which if anybody's looking to become a certified life coach, I would recommend the Life Purpose Institute because it's fun. Although the one funny thing about that is it's called the Life Purpose Institute. So the manual is literally 750 pages, 650 pages long. I'm not even kidding. The life purpose section, I can't even say it with a straight face, is literally 3 pages. But there's a reason for it. I just thought it was funny. So earlier this week, I was at one of my favorite places in Las Vegas. It was the Discovery Children's Museum. Simply awesome museum. A ton of cool exhibits, and it kind of makes you feel like, how come they didn't have this when I was a kid? But anyway, so in this museum, there's 3 floors, and each has a different exhibit. One teaches you about sound, the other one teaches you sort of about investigating, and it's got these old bones in there, you're a what's the word I'm looking for? Those people who dig up bones. You know what I'm talking about. Anthropologist? Something like that. That's a study of... I don't know. Anyway, you figured out what I mean. So you're in this museum, and it's 3 floors, and it's very almost playground sort of meets really informational exhibits. Sometimes they have rotating exhibits. There was one that taught you about the entire culture of Japan, but it was really fun, and there was a karaoke section, which is great. So I go there 3 times a year for the news, because I'm a news reporter, obviously. But, well, not obviously, for those of you that don't know, I guess that's my day job. But I go there and I just have fun. And this week I went because they were doing Totally 80s Week. And so they had the Ghostbusters there. We have the Ghostbusters here in Las Vegas, and they go around and cheer kids up and stuff like that. But I got to thinking Man, like the inner child is so important because you think about, yourself as an adult. You're the sum of all your parts, right? You're the sum of your life from start until now, wherever you are now. And typically what happens in adulthood is we start to push that inner child out in a way because life gets serious. There's bills to pay, there's the job to worry about, there's the mundane tasks of the day-to-day. And then that inner child sort of gets quelled or suppressed. And for one, I'm really, like, if you've watched me on TV, my inner child is right there with me at all times. To the point, like last week, I was doing a story and I'm like, all right, how do I make this tease fun? And I remembered back in the ninth grade, there's a bug on my wall. I hate when that happens. I'm going to kill it. Hold on. So I literally go into the bathroom to grab some paper towel, and I come back out, and it's gone. It'll probably kill me while I'm sleeping, or, annoy me. Anyway, so I had to tease this story, and I was trying to figure out what to do, and then I remember back in the ninth grade, we had a teacher. Her name was Mrs. Banker, or Ms. Banker. It doesn't matter. And she was trying to teach us the quadratic formula. So she taught us through a song. So on camera, I just busted out in song, saying like, x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now, I couldn't tell you what the quadratic formula is used for, nor have I ever had to use it since, but I've never forgotten that song because that is your inner child. You know what I mean? When you kind of fall back and take something from memory and approach it like a kid would. So the inner child, again, as we get older, kind of goes away. Well, I have 3 ways that you could help bring out your inner child. And it's important because sometimes in life there are tasks that need to be done, or there's a situation that arises that from an adult perspective is probably not the best to handle it. But from a kid's perspective or through kids' eyes, maybe that's a little bit better. Just not that whiny little kid that, was there earlier. Oh yeah, that one. So annoying, right? So you want to be able to connect with your inner child. I heard something really interesting at church tonight, and the pastor was talking about happiness, and he said, the bigger theme was happiness, but he was talking about babies, and he said, if a baby never gets held, it's going to die, because babies need that nurturing, they need that touch. And I thought, well, the same thing with your inner child. If you continually suppress your inner child as an adult, it's going to die. And then you don't know how to tap into that anymore, or it just becomes so foreign to you that you lose sight of that. Remember that your life is a sum of all your parts until now. So part of your life is that childhood. So tapping back into it is super important. Why? Because it helps you solve problems sometimes that your adult mind can't seem to figure out how. When you approach things with kid gloves sometimes, what do kids have? They're carefree. Nothing is off limits. And that's my first rule. Make nothing off the table. Keep nothing off the table. So, like, when you were a kid and you would be taking a bath, I would just throw all my toys in the bathtub and then figure out which ones I wanted to play with. Same thing when you're going to approach a problem or you want to connect with your inner child. Don't take anything away. Just add on. And then whatever sort of surfaces from there, like the toy that you wanted to play with, maybe approach it from that angle. That's my rule, my first rule for connecting with your inner child. My second rule for connecting with an inner child is think back to very pivotal or very interesting points in your childhood, those that had an impact on you. Here's what happens when you do that. You start thinking then of other things in your childhood that you forgot. And I read in a study that the more you can connect with your younger days and the more you can think back and try and draw on different childhood memories, that the better your memory becomes in life. And it helps with not losing it later through certain illnesses or diseases, right? So that's my second one. Make sure you try and think back to certain parts of your life. And so my third rule for connecting with your inner child, or how to connect with your inner child, is, again, risk things. Take a little bit of a risk. If it seems silly, go with it. Who cares? Because here's the thing. Life is 90%, at least I feel like in adulthood, like serious a lot of times, right? Because you can't always approach things from the way you want. But listen, when you have the ability to approach things from the way you want to, when you get that, I guess it's that amenity, then go for it. Just take the risk. Who cares? You know what I mean? There's that quote that says, don't take life too seriously or laugh at yourself. You know what I mean? Like, you have to be able to do that. But connecting with your inner child is, you ever hear, where a kid is, ridiculously smart but funny at the same time? Like, parents will say, where do they get that stuff from? Or, Who thinks of that stuff? Well, kids think of that stuff because there's nothing in their mind saying filter this or take this away or you're going to sound dumb if you say this or what will others think of you. None of that. Risk it. You know what I mean? It's going to work out or it's not going to work out. Either way, tap into that inner child. And what's interesting is one of my favorite things that I teach clients in life coaching is there's a skill that life coaches have. It's called research and testing. But I teach clients how to do that because research and testing allows you to think of many different options and then go for them. If they work out, they don't. If they do work out, great. But it's the idea there that you can just go with it and figure out what works, you know? So you're approaching it in some ways like a kid would. Well, and finally, on Wingspan, the Imperfect Angel of a podcast, it's my now enlightened moment. All right, so I was at the drive-thru, right? And I've been noticing this happening. You get up to the drive-thru and the clerk, it's at this one specific restaurant, but you get up to the drive-thru window and they hand you the drink. Now imagine the drink is normal, like you're holding it normally, but then they put the straw on top of it perpendicular. So they're holding it, looks like a T, and then they hand it out the window to you. And it's like you don't know how to grab it. You're trying to grab it with one hand to begin with, and you're trying to grab it so it doesn't spill, and it just is annoying. So I had to teach the kid, like, listen, if you just put the straw parallel with the cup and hold it against the cup, and then with one hand, with the straw in the cup in one hand, you hand it out the window, you know, like you normally would, that makes it a lot easier. And he's like, well, you know, some people just like to have... I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I thought, this is your life right now. You're seriously teaching the drive-thru attendant how to hand a drink out the window. Even more scary, you're at a drive-thru. Get out. That's all we have. Real quick, if you need life coaching, I'm here, www.mikedorialife.com. That first appointment is always free, so listen, do you need a coach? Who knows? Why not just log on, schedule that free appointment, we'll chat, and I'll tell you. I'm not overpriced. You can handle it, you can afford it. See ya!